Hello everyone, Grim here, and as you can probably tell, it is time for me to read you another story. This one is titled, Welcome to Theta-Mart, The Page, Part 3, written by the amazing author, AnfieldMysteries. So, as always, sit back, relax, and let's enjoy. I've only worked one other retail job before this. It was a dodgy corner store that made most of its cash from liquor sales, cigarettes, and cheap imported knickknacks for tourists. I lasted a week, but that job doesn't even hold a candle to the fuck shit I have had to deal with here. The page had started and ended again, but now, filling the silence was pain, blinding pain, and an intense, high-pitched, constant ringing. I couldn't remember when my eyes opened again, but I found myself laying on my side in a small and cold, slightly coagulated puddle of blood. I had been lying there, staring at the white tile that stretched for miles into the dark in one direction. The thing pretending to be my dad was nowhere to be seen, and though he didn't have the opportunity to blow my head off, the pounding migraine I now had felt like it would finish the job. I peeled myself off the floor, and my eyes took their sweet time adjusting to a very differently lit place I found myself in. The ground was level again, and the shelves were their normally straight and stupidly tall selves. Where am I? My voice was muffled like I was hearing my own voice through a wall. There was a thin trail of what I could only assume to be my blood, leading back to a lone clothing rack full of ugly sweaters. I wanted to investigate, but something about having your eardrums popped like flesh balloons really takes the curiosity out of you. My head felt heavy, and my limbs hung from their joints like lead pipes as I tried to regain my bearings. By some random intervention of God or the devil or whatever forces are at work here that either decided to cut me a break or deliver me right to the doorstep of my untimely demise, I was standing right under the garden and live good sign. The smell here was... the air was different. It was swampy. It was noticeably unique from the other areas I visited. The pungent odor of decaying plant matter, wet soil, and humidity slapped me in the face like a swampy Louisiana morning. There were vines on the floor as thick as a man's thigh, and I could have sworn they were moving and twitching slightly. Off in the distance I could see a pair of automatic sliding doors. Beyond them was a dark, Viridian shadow. I found myself reconsidering again if I really could live without my phone or not. I could just find a sack of cloths to sit under until my shift finished. It would be so easy. I could probably even fall asleep. How wonderful would it be if this was all just a nightmare? I took a moment to follow that thought. How weird would it be to set up a therapy appointment from a payphone? Is that a red flag? I feel like that would be kind of a red flag. Max, buddy, you made it! I know you could do it! I turned to see Fred, armless and sprinting from out of nowhere towards me. He was wearing a sun hat and a bright blue polo with empty sleeves flopping in the wind. "I was so worried your head had exploded already. Did you get my message from Janice?" I slapped him so hard, his head spun, like it literally spun. I almost spun it off his plastic neck. "Are you fucking serious? You left me walking around aimlessly on my own in this place. Give me my goddamn phone before I take your legs too." He was completely unfazed, his head continuing to spin as he spoke. "Okay, I know you're mad, but do you mind?" I begrudgingly stopped his head from spinning and turned it to face me. "I didn't know how else to get you motivated to come with me to garden to use their phone. No offense, but you're kinda stubborn." "Fred." "Yeah?" I pinched the bridge of my nose. I could feel the throbbing in my head, pulsing in my sinuses and teeth. Part of me wondered if it was a tension headache from how irritated I was, or if it could have something to do with the air nuke I just received. I looked back at Fred's stupid smiling face and took a deep, deep breath. "Max, don't dismember your only lifeline. It's not worth it." I addressed him in the way one would talk to a dog that was too dumb to understand why it wasn't okay to pee in the house. "If you told me the page was going to increase in volume to the point it could kill me, I would have gladly come with you." "Oh, for real?" "Yes." "Ah, Maxie, I didn't think you trusted me that much already. Hug?" "No. Your opportunity for a hug left when you stole my phone." I turned and started to head towards the doors. I kicked the vines out of the way as I walked. I was fed up, and just wanted whatever little Shop of Horrors nonsense I would have to deal with next to be over. I could hear Fred trailing close behind me and continuing his chatter, but it was so much harder to hear him now. I'll definitely have to go to the doctor's for this. God, the bill is going to suck. I guess the $20 an hour is worth something, as shitty as the situation is. "Max!" "I think I'll order a bunch of food when I get home, with ice cream." "Hey, Max!" "Ice cream and my nice warm bed." "Max!" "What?" "Help!" I spun towards the plastic pain in my ass and threw my hands in the air. What the hell could you possibly need my help with? Oh my god! The stupid vines had picked up Fred and were now pulling him apart, one of his legs coming free with a pop. "Hey, Vines! Off the legs, pal. You ain't even offered me dinner yet." "Well, what do I do?" "Well, if a scenario wherein you're being or in this case mannequin handled by a co-worker in a way you don't like should arise, you should go to HR. Theta-Mart can let a little bit of murder slide, but definitely not." A final pop, and the last of Fred's appendages were gone. As much as I would like to say I leaped into action to save him, hacking and slashing the vines away, and got Fred's legs back, I didn't. In fact, I couldn't even bring myself to feel all that bad. It was only a matter of time before the page sounded again and popped my head like a meaty gusher. I'm pretty sure after that I wouldn't really need my ears anymore. I don't have time for this. The vines lifted Fred higher into the air, him never stopping to take a breath as he began to beg and plead, which was surprising. Max, buddy, you're gonna help me out. No, I'm gonna go answer the phone. Fred made a sound similar to a plastic clothing tag being taken off his shirt. I couldn't tell how I know, but it was the mannequin equivalent of a whine. Ah, come on, man. I'll come back for you. If I remember, though. Not cool, dude. Not cool. Just when I thought the plant, for whatever reason, had no interest in me, I felt a vine very quickly slink up my pants leg and climb much higher than I appreciated. Fred was right. This plant was a little too touchy. I could only let out a squeak before it quickly yanked my leg out from underneath me. I fell forward, the full weight of my body falling on my chest. I could see something passing back and forth behind the doors, which implied that 1, it was big, and 2, it was waiting for us. The vines, as though they noticed the shape when I did, began dragging us both towards the door. My face made hard contact with the tile and undoubtedly gave me a hell of a shiner on my cheek. I dug my nails into the ridges in the floor, but to no avail. It only took about 10 seconds for us to clear the almost football field length between us and the doors to the garden and live goods. The smell of swamp hit me with about the same force as the vine slingshotting me and Fred's torso down the soil aisle. The air was hot and wet. Water dripped from the shelves, and there was a noticeable fog that had settled on the floor. The place was a jungle, and if I hadn't been tossed around or deafened, I probably would have thought this place was pretty cool. Would have been the key word. Fred's eyeballs began to dart around their sockets, his head moving from left to right on the axis of his neck. Oh man, oh shit. I laid on the floor for a minute, just staring at the cascading vines for just a bit longer before they started pulling me to pieces too. Fred was notably not as impressed. He wiggled and wobbled, trying to turn over on his side. This was not a good plan. Bad plan. We gotta get out of here. Why? Are you scared? If the pager goes off again, I'm toast. Extra frickin' crispy. I'm not supposed to be here. I owe the garden manager big time. Owe them what? If Fred had nails or a mouth, or hands for that matter, he would have been biting them. I lost a game of Uno to them, and I still haven't paid what I owe. That sounds like a you problem. For the second time in less than 5 minutes, I peeled myself off the floor and took one last moment to admire the plants around me. They were so strange and bright. I had never seen plants like these. I wonder if anyone would notice if I took one of the small ones home. Max, hold up. Oh, before I forget. I walk over to Fred, reach into his legging pants pocket, and grab my phone. To my dismay, the idiot had cracked my screen. That made it all the easier to leave him there, armless, legless, and yelling. Serves him right. I walked up and down the aisles, trying to get some inclination on where in the department I was. But this place, like the rest of the store, was absolutely gargantuan. The dense foliage consisted of trees as thick as Greek pillars, shrubbery with leaves as large as tables, and hypnotically coloured flowers, some of which sprayed you in the face. I made the mistake of trying to pick up a purple one that smelled like Listerine mouthwash. A carpet of soft moss blanketed over most of the floor, where only every few yards was the tile underneath visible. I'd be lying if I didn't say, as strange as the plants in here were, something in here put me at ease. It felt as though it were welcoming me to sit, to sleep, to stay. No, I have to answer that damn phone. I have to stay focused. I can't keep wasting time and walking around aimlessly. Maybe leaving Fred behind wasn't the best idea. I managed to find a shelf-like structure buried beneath vines, moss, and branches. I took a deep breath and began scaling it as quickly as I could manage. I had to see where exactly I was and pray, wherever or whatever the manager was, it didn't spot me piddling around up there. I peeked over the top, feeling brave, and then climbed all the way up. I sat atop of the shelf, getting a full view. It was breathtaking. The entire department was a lush rainforest. Overhead, above the canopy, actual clouds formed. I couldn't help but speak out aloud a quiet, "Whoa." Maybe this is why Janice likes loitering on top of the shelves. I can't imagine home and decor looking this amazing, though. As I began to be lulled once more by the surroundings, I saw a head peek at me from the shelf on the other side of the aisles from me. A head with thick auburn spirals and some of the greenest eyes I had ever seen. It seemed they saw me before I saw them, and they were locked on me. They appeared apprehensive of my presence. Hi," I said with a wave. The top half of the head was thankfully attached to a girl. She pulled herself up to the top of the adjacent shelf. She was pretty, really pretty. She wore a long dark green skirt, from what I could tell, a well-loved Led Zeppelin t-shirt, peeking out from over the top lip of her white and green stained apron, with a pair of combat boots. She eyed me inquisitively and said something. I could only gesture to my ears and respond, I can't hear you. Sorry." She wrinkled her nose, then began digging in her apron pocket and producing a notebook and pen. She scribbled something, then proceeded to crumble up the paper into a small ball and throw it across the gap between us. She had a throwing arm to rival Fred's, and the little ball landed in my lap. I carefully unfolded the slightly damp paper to read the message in flowery handwriting. "Are you Max?" My chest tightened with anxiety. Tell the pretty and mysterious girl my name and break rule 1, or lie and hope it doesn't come back to bite me. I smiled and nodded my head like a dope. She returned my smile and made the phone gesture with her hand, holding it up to her ear. I nodded and smiled again, mimicking the gesture. Oh, thank God, she knows where the phone is. I pulled out my own pen and scribbled on the other side of the paper. "What's your name?" Might as well even out the playing field. And tossed it to her. She opened it, smiling wider this time, dimples appearing in her cheeks as she wrote her response and tossed the ball back to me. This might be the strangest game of catch I had ever played. "Anna Odi," the note said. She wrote another and tossed it at me. It read, "What happened to your ears?" I answered, "Popped 'em. Gotta go answer the page." I paused for a moment and quickly gestured for the paperback. She tossed it back to me and I added, "Your ears aren't damaged?" I returned it and she responded by pulling a pair of scruffed up AirPods out of her pocket with a shy smirk. Ah, good old sound cancelling. There was something about her that made the quiet suggestion to stay a while longer grow in intensity. She began to climb down, gesturing for me to follow, and I did so without missing a beat. When I reached the bottom, the fog seemed so much thicker. It carried a strange, sweet smell. It only came up to the knee, thankfully, but it was so dense I couldn't see my feet. A gentle tap on my shoulder caused me to flinch and nearly reach for my box cutter. Anna held up her hand, smirking at me. "Got ya." I couldn't hear her voice, so I read her lips instead. I guess my ears were more messed up than I initially thought. I tried to relax and shrugged. "You got me," I said. Anna began digging in her pocket once again, but this time producing a fist-sized flower pot. It looked incredibly similar to Zingiberisi, or the shampoo plant, but it was a vibrant electric blue and smelled like licorice root with molasses. She held it up and tilted her head. "Tilt your head like this. It'll help your ears." I didn't argue and did as she said. Something about her was just so disarming. I tilted my head. She gently put one hand under my chin. With the other, she held the pot above my ears. I heard a faint squish followed by an uncomfortable sensation of syrup being poured into my ear canal. My face contorted in the way that made her giggle. At least she's having fun. What was strange, though, her voice sounded like the quiet chirping of a broken bird. This time, when she spoke again, still no sound came from her. Either I was permanently deaf, she was mute, or there was something else at play. Either way, I was faced with a new issue now. I couldn't understand my guide, and I'm horrible at lip reading. "Alright, Dopey. Now the other one." She mouthed as though she had no idea there was a huge communication barrier between us. She took me by the chin, gently tilting my head to the other side. She squeezed the pod once more, and it felt even worse going into my ear the second time. I couldn't help but stare and study her face for any signs of something. Her eyes met mine again, and she beamed. "Better?" she mouthed. My migraine and the throbbing in my ears were quickly evaporating, so the flower juice did something. But I also found myself in the introvert dilemma. You go through a drive-thru and ask for no pickles, to only receive them in your sandwich and be too awkward to go back and ask them to fix it for you. she was nice enough to even try. I didn't want to be a bother. I'll just deal, I guess. Yeah, thank you. She clapped. I heard that. Or, I think I did. Good, she said, as well as a bunch of other things I couldn't really make out. She spoke quickly and I was only able to pick up something about flower food. She disappeared into the next aisle and I followed close behind her. I really hope we weren't taking a detour. I am running out of time. Every few steps I nearly tripped over vines and whatever lay beneath the fog. Every time I did, she glanced at me from over her shoulder. Careful, she'd say. Yeah, sorry. I could hear my voice through the syrup, the vicious nectar, making it sound like I was underwater. I tried to keep pace with her as we walked and resist the urge to try digging the now quickly drying flower gunk in my ears. By then, I should have just kept my mouth shut, but I can't stand awkward silence, and now, despite not being able to hear it, I could still feel it. Not to mention, on top of being a horrible lip reader, I suck at talking to girls. So, how long have you been here? I hoped she wouldn't notice me staring at her lips to understand what she was saying. I was becoming hyper-aware of what I was looking at, which was probably what made it even worse. What do you mean? She was now staring back at me, which made me stare even harder at her. Damn it, Max, blink. Stop being weird. In the Theta-Mart. In garden. Oh. She began to fidget with her skirt. I have no idea how long it's been. I'm sure you know how time works. A little funky here. I do, unfortunately. This is the hardest conversation I've ever had. Am I really that out of touch with talking to people? Seriously, I need to get out more. Anna continued to talk, completely unfazed by our unspoken staring contest. She didn't take her eyes off me once. It was like she was so familiar with this place she didn't even need to look where she was going. I couldn't help but wonder what that was like, to be so sure of anything. By then, I had already missed half of her sentence. Days or weeks, and neither of us would know until our shifts are over. Oh yeah, but aren't you even a little bit concerned that you don't know how long you've been here? She gave me a strange look, which told me I had almost certainly missed a social cue. Well, typically, people who want to go home are people who either have someone they miss at home or their home is better than where they are now. Neither of those apply to me. Plus, I'm getting something. I missed that part. And to top it all off, I think I found another reason to like it here. I felt her hand brush against mine and nearly leaped out of my skin. Yeah. The only thing I could hear now was my heart thumping in my eyes. Do you have someone you miss, Max? Someone waiting for you? Me? No, not really. I'm half convinced that if I vanish, my family would be relieved. I paused. Sorry, that was a little dark. Anna traced my knuckles with her pinky finger before wrapping her hand around my own. The wash of pity on her face finally forced me to break and look away. She gently tugged on my earlobe. I looked at her again, being faced with the deep pools of striking emerald. It was like lightning to the soul.
No, that's how you feel, and if that's the case, they aren't your family. Your real family. I shrugged. I sort of wanted the conversation to end there. I was starting to feel heavy, and it was becoming so much harder to decipher what she was saying. But Anna kept going. Is that really how you feel, Max? Her hands trailed up my arm and leaned her head on my shoulders as we walked. She continued staring up at me, never once looking away, her eyes practically piercing into me. The longer I looked into her eyes, the harder it got to keep moving, to keep wanting to move, to blink, to speak. I couldn't bring myself to respond anymore. I just nodded my head, bobbing like a bowling ball. Then stay here with me. I'll make sure you never feel lonely, only loved.
Whoa, wait a second. That's a little forward.
It's what you need. You belong here.
I don't think either of us are ready for that level of commitment. I'm still in college. Her grip tightened. Anna was a lot stronger than she looked. Oh no.
It's okay. We'll learn together. Something, forever.
As sweet as that might sound, I think several months down the line, I really can't stay here.
But you can. I can make it so easy.
She stopped us and put her hands on my cheek. That little voice in my head telling me to stay was much louder now. It wasn't mine.
Look at me, Max. Don't you want to stay?
I was transfixed. She held me there in her gaze. I was trapped. Her eyes were pulsing now, different shades of green, infinite mandalas of spiral, coalescing and folding in on themselves like beautiful stained glass mosaics. They were every shade of green imaginable. Being this close to her, she smelled like honeysuckle and hyacinth.
Stay with me.
I can't. I don't want. I remembered the soft bed of moss beneath me. Chills running up and down my body in waves. I was so tired, I almost wished she would turn me to stone with those eyes. Anything if it meant I could rest unbothered forever. My brain re-registering how blissfully peaceful it was here. How easy it would be just to stay. It was such a comfortable idea. I closed my heavy eyelids as Anna planted a kiss on my lips. Even to acknowledge the sensation of touch was too much energy. It burned and tasted like poison, but I gave in. My only reward was the world around me finally being plunged into inviting, quiet black. Consciousness came to me in waves. Strange sensations and sounds piqued my curiosity, but not enough to shake me from my stupor. At least that was the case until I felt hot stinging on my backside. My eyes shot open, my body ached, and my skin was tingling. That can't be good. My vision slowly came back into focus, and I realized I was sitting inside a giant pitcher plant. I was submerged up to the neck in a translucent green syrupy liquid that was doing God knows what to me. My entire body felt slightly numb but slightly warm. It was like being in an ogre's mouth. It was gross.
and I hated it. "Good morning, Sleeping Beauty," Anna said, sitting on top of one of the pictures beside me, like a hipster grudge version of Mary Poppins. I could hear her now. Her voice was clear as a bell, but it sounded slightly distorted, as though she were speaking through a walkie-talkie that got dropped in the toilet. My relief gave way to confusion, then annoyance. "You ever heard of the term no means no? And why do you sound like that?" "Not being able to understand you was getting to be a chore, so I decided to assimilate you." "Wait, what? Dude, look, I don't know what plant yonder hoodoo you used on me, but I literally just want to answer the phone and get out of here. Like, I get you're probably super lonely in here, but I'm not the guy you want. I've got more issues than a Stephen King character." I heard a snort and a scream laugh from a bundle of vines below me. "Ha! Yonder hoodoo. Good one." Fred. Of course. This mannequin was quickly becoming about as consistent and enjoyable as herpes. I would have jumped if I hadn't already known Fred was 4 legs short of a full mannequin and 1 brain cell short of having any semblance of common sense or even a plan. "Shut up, Fred. And don't worry, Max. All of your issues and pain will melt away very soon." "That's what you think. Either way, you won't be happy cleaning me or my issues out of your people slurping pod when the pager goes off again and my head explodes." Anna frowned and floated over to me, a thick vine connecting to her lower back, suspending her in the air. "By the time the pager goes off again, it won't affect you. After all, plants love sound. It stimulates growth." I couldn't help but think about just how super weird that was. "It's only weird if you make it weird, Max." "Nope, it's super duper mega weird," Fred chimed in with, "It's pretty weird." Whoa, are you reading my mind? I get the eating me thing, but stay out of my head. That's definitely crossing a boundary. Unplug me from your plant Wi-Fi. "I'm not gonna eat you, stupid. Why does everyone think... never mind. Now, shut up and sit tight. Your off-brand Barbie owes us an MP3. Fred shouted from below. "Barbie wishes she had my moxie." She shut the lid on my picture and floated off. The picture itself was see-through like glass with the texture of celery. As strange as that sounds, to make matters worse, it was filling up with more of that gross plant juice, and that burn at the base of my spine began to build in intensity. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes tight as the plant soup cleared the top of my head. My brain began firing thoughts off like bullets from a gun. Shit. I suck at holding my breath. I can't hold it forever. Oh god, that really hurts. This is what it feels like before I was born? No, don't think about that. Focus, Max, focus. I did what no one in my situation should ever do, and opened my eyes again. Opening your eyes in a giant carnivorous flower juice should melt your eyes on contact, but to my surprise, that didn't happen. I began digging into my apron pocket. I pulled out my box cutter and made quick work of the plant flesh. I cut a hatch-sized square and kicked it out of place. I didn't really think that one through. The juice spilled out and took me with it. I slipped out of the pitcher, realizing I was many feet off the ground and falling. This must be what it feels like to be a newborn giraffe. I fell about 10 feet before being jerked by the tender spot, which now was connected by a glowing vine thing doing probably nothing good. It came free with a sickening noise and kept some of my skin as a souvenir. The burning increased tenfold. I heard a loud scream in my head, and from everywhere around me, I was left plummeting the rest of the way, screaming with whatever I was hearing and holding the space above my ass crack. Not one of my proudest moments. Well, that was the end of the third story in the series. Now, I have a strong suspicion that when I said it was a 3-part series, I was wrong. We are probably going to be expecting a 4th, and I am more than looking forward to it. I do think I need to work on my Boston accent. I can do it pretty well when I'm messing around, but reading a script is a little bit different. But either way, as I said, it was a great story. Thank you again for listening along with me. And if you'd like to help out the channel, you can do that just by liking and subscribing. But that's not a requirement. Once the series is completed, I'm thinking I will make it a single long version, so you can just listen to it all in one go, so don't feel bad if you don't quite keep up with the uploads. But anyway, I digress. Have yourself a wonderful day or night, wherever you are, and be safe. This is Grim, and I'm signing off.